everybody, and welcome into the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Pucko. I used to host the show. You might remember. Guys, it's good to see you again. I've been away for a while. Tariq, how are things going?
Doing great. I'm so happy you're back, man. The anxiety and stress of hosting this show. Although it was great for the last couple of weeks. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm pretty great at this. Pat, good to see you, man.
Oh, missed you so much, Bill. I'm glad to see you back. All the other things that Tariq just said, ditto to that.
Yeah, well, we're getting the band back together again, and we're going to talk Major League Baseball first, Tariq. Major League Baseball made a pretty big splash this last week, getting out of the All-Star game in Atlanta with a political issue and taking it off to Colorado. What are your general feelings about that?
Listen, I think baseball made this statement when they were very big on dealing with issues that were going on around the country, one of which was the racial injustice that was happening. And they saw it again in Georgia. They couldn't ignore it. We've seen all-star games get moved before. NBA did it in Charlotte before for some sort of issue as well. So it's not shocking that they would get involved. I mean, you have major companies a part of this: Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines. I think JP Morgan has made a statement about this. And then you have other companies in Atlanta and in Georgia that haven't said a word about this and are basically staying away from it as far as when it comes to this Georgia voting law. So I think baseball is just making a statement, understanding where it goes. I'd like to see the All-Star game in Colorado. You'll get a lot of run scores, especially the home run derby. So it's not a bad place to go. And it's the All-Star game. How many people are really into it that badly anyway? So wait, we see what happens. What's going to happen is I'm really concerned if this continues, what do you do with the Atlanta Braves? Because they're going to have to make a statement and might have to make a stand as well.
Yeah, Pat, on the flip side of that, and I give this to you because you're always talking with a cross-section of people, you've got Mitch McConnell pushing back saying that these corporations got no business getting involved with politics. And on the other, you've got some people that say, the Major League Baseball could have done more in a positive sense by being proactive in Georgia than simply taking it out.
Well, and I think that statement, exactly what you said, leads to what I was going to get into. Look, I'm a very cynical human being. If Major League Baseball is actually making a statement because they feel something was wrong, good for them. But I don't believe that's what this is. I believe this is reactive and capitalistic. They see that their fans are going to more lean towards them making a statement that they find popular than not. I mean, look. Let's look at the history of Major League Baseball, right? Only within the last couple of months have they even recognized the Negro Leagues as Major League Baseball. You've had 80 years to do that. They love to romanticize this Jackie Robinson story about how they were there, right? When he broke the color barrier and they were a part of it. Why don't you ask some of the other guys that weren't in Major League Baseball that were coming from the Negro Leagues? Why don't you talk to Satchel Paige about what his career could have been, how many years it took for him as a legitimate old man to get into Major League Baseball, even the stuff that goes on with the Boston Red Sox and the story we've seen there. That's in recent years that Major League Baseball kind of turned a blind eye to. Look, the cynic in me looks at this and it's telling me they're not looking to make a stand. They're not looking to do something right. They're looking to capitalize on something. Hopefully I'm wrong, but history, and that's not just Major League Baseball, it's the NBA. It's the NFL, it's the NHL. If you want to be that group that is making a stand because of what you believe in, well, I think it's got to be across the board or it doesn't really mean much.
So, Tariq, what should happen? I mean, what's the proper response?
Well, I think the proper response is to basically make a stand. I know that Major League Baseball had to make a decision. You weren't going to basically say, okay, we're going to ignore this whole Georgia issue, which is huge, obviously, when it comes to voting. They made a decision. They moved the All-Star game. It is what it is. It's in Colorado. You'll still have an All-Star game people want to watch with a lot of runs scored.
So, Pat, quickly contrast this with Nike's reaction to Deshaun Watson, where they're just recently they've severed business ties with Deshaun Watson because of the problems that he's had. I see these things as being in the same neighborhood.
Well, I mean, one's personal, one's societal. Although I guess you can make the argument, yes, with the Deshaun Watson thing, with as many people that have been affected by it, it is societal. I mean, I don't know. Again, the cynic in me looks at that story. How many women does it take to come forward? If you legitimately believe that Deshaun Watson might have done something wrong, why did it take 23? Why did it take a woman coming forward and showing her face before you made a decision? And again, I don't know what the right answer is to any of these things. I have no idea. But I do know that if you're going to sit and make a decision based on a cultural, societal, what you believe is right statement, just show me consistency all the way through. Don't do it when your bottom line is going to be affected in any way.
We are the Rochester Press Box. Sam Darnold is out of the Buffalo Bills division. We'll talk about that next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay & Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Thanks for joining us, and welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Sort of talking Buffalo Bills here. Pat, that great quarterback class, 2018, 4 first-rounders. Sam Darnold leaves the division. They don't get a first-rounder back. It looks now it's between Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen wins the class.
Okay, well, you're forgetting about Lamar Jackson, who has won an MVP. And 4, there was 5. How could you forget legendary first-round pick Josh Rosen in Arizona in the first-round, Bill? Come on, I know you're a little rusty. You haven't been here in a while, but help me out.
Well,
it was actually Jackson I'd left out because he was so late in the draft. I looked in the top 10. You're right. Those other 4 guys were top 10 picks. Jackson was an afterthought, and you're right. He has to be considered, certainly, Tariq.
32 overall for his Jackson. And oh, by the way, he, if you think about it, last year would have been ahead of Allen if you were ranking those quarterbacks. What a difference a year makes. He makes the playoffs, finally wins a game, but Josh Allen goes to the AFC Championship game. Now I rank him, Allen, ahead of Jackson. So I go Allen, Jackson, Mayfield, Darnold, Rosen. Well, I don't even know where he is. Last time I checked was Tampa. But, I mean, looking forward to this, I mean, how do you feel as a Bills fan, Pat, knowing now the debate is over? There is no Darnold and Allen anymore. There is barely a quarterback in New England. The Dolphins were still not sure about Tua. So it looks like the Bills are set for this division again.
Look, I would love to sit here and say, I told you so. I would love to sit here and go, the night they made that pick, I knew they were right, but I wasn't. I was freaking out. If I'm being completely sincere, when they said Josh, I was hoping Rosen was going to come out of Goodell's mouth going to Buffalo. Like it's such an illustration because Darnold was, right? He's coming out of USC. He is the most pro-ready quarterback for the NFL. This is going to be the guy. Baker Mayfield's the fireworks. Darnold's the pro-ready. Rosen's going to be the long-term solution, and maybe Josh Allen could be successful if you teach him accuracy, which you can't. Nobody knows anything. Like, we're gearing up to watch this draft, right? Everything that was stated, with the exception of Josh Allen has a high ceiling, was completely wrong. Like, I don't know why, and I'm so stupid. I keep investing in these shows. I keep reading these articles. I keep thinking I know what I'm talking about, right? And then here it comes. Hey, Sam Darnold, most pro ready, doesn't even make it out of his rookie contract in New York. What do we know, man? We know nothing.
That really, I mean, if anything, that's what it shows us. Because, I mean, you confessed. I thought at the time that the Giants made a huge mistake taking Saquon Barkley ahead of who we talked, Darnold. I thought Darnold was the consensus pick of the draft, and here we are. It's just 3 years later, and they're already done with him, Tariq.
Yeah, and look at where Allen is right now, looking for that big contract within the next couple of months or so. So, I mean, we'll wait and see what happens. I think the Bills are in a prime position. You have to feel good as a Bills fan. You like the stack is decked against your competition. So you're looking forward to that going forward. I mean, the fact that Zach Wilson could be going to New York, they're starting all over again. So it's a great position for the Bills to be in. You've got to take this division the next 2 years. You have to.
Yeah, Pat, in my absence, I was watching what the Bills are doing, and, you know, the sort of reloading. They're taking advantage of that window, the prime window when you got the quarterback and the rookie contract, and they're throwing everything at it, and next year just becomes so much more important.
100%. I mean, you have to look at what happened. I mean, Seattle's a perfect example of this, right? And by the way, that was with a third-round pick quarterback who they weren't paying as much. Like, you saw what happened when Russell Wilson's rookie deal went up and they had to legitimately pay him. It falls apart. Same with Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years, right? Like, look, I do find it interesting, though, as we're talking about the quarterbacks and the quarterbacks within the AFC East. The Bills are going to be facing probably a rookie quarterback in New York, a second-year quarterback who had Ryan Fitzpatrick as his closer in Tua Tagovailoa in Miami. And the one team that should legitimately be drafting a quarterback to develop him, they're not. The New England Patriots are going to go with Cam Newton or whatever veteran might stick to their roster moving forward. Like, all of this is upside down. It doesn't make any sense, and it makes that 2 to 3 year window the Bills have left that much more wide open. Tariq is right, man. There is no excuse unless Zach Wilson is the greatest rookie quarterback we've ever seen out of New York for the Bills to dominate this division again next year.
Everybody loves the pro days, though. Everybody looks great on pro days, and everybody looks good on draft day, and everybody looks good on the suit. But we'll wait and see come August and September who's really able to play.
They always come up with those retroactive opinions that people gave after pro days saying how great all these guys were. And your reaction is like, who? How? It didn't happen. Hey, we have the Rochester Press Box, Like It or Not, is next.
Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is next. Like it or not, is ne
Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
All of these things show Josh Allen has a strive for greatness inside of him.
Falcon Around with Carl Falk. New episodes every Tuesday on Rock Sports Now.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. This segment of the Press Box, like it or not, is brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law Firm, attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Don't go unprepared. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today. Like it or not, Pat, reactions overall to the end of the college basketball season?
I mean, look, I was not looking forward to the tournament this year like I normally did. I didn't really pay much attention to college basketball because of all the stops and starts. I was completely wrong. This tournament was amazing. And the fact that it ended the way that it did was perfection, right? Like that historical undefeated team goes on another year. Just when Gonzaga finally feels like they're a national powerhouse and they have something to puff their chest out about, here comes Baylor for the first time since 1948 winning a national championship. It was great. The only thing, if I could have written a better ending to the college basketball season, make that championship game a little closer, because it was a little bit anticlimactic after everything we had seen. But no, man, it was great. I loved every second of it.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I was telling Bill off air about people who were upset about the last second shot Gonzaga won against the UCLA, and how people were upset that they bet money on UCLA only to find out that they lost at the end. I thought it was great. I thought it was all the way in. And there's nothing better than a perfect season than a team that stops a perfect season in the championship game. So Baylor, they're like my New York Football Giants. I love it.
So I guess that answers my question. I was going to do, Tariq, like it or not, Baylor winning.
Oh, I love Baylor winning. And it's to Pat's point, it's kind of this whole story of what you think you're going to see, what you expect to see. Like Gonzaga, we saw the program, if you're old enough, you saw that program develop over years. You thought this was their time. And it was not. Baylor came in with consistent play. They played great in the semifinal game. They played great in the championship game. It was anticlimactic. I stayed up thinking to myself, Gonzaga's going to make a comeback. They cut that lead down at halftime. I'm like, okay, let's see if they can get the momentum to start the second half. They didn't. That was the end of the game.
So, Pat, with Baylor winning, you're going to tell me to let it go. I'm pretty sure that's your answer here. I hate Baylor more than any college in the country with their past. The murders within the basketball program, the things that went on with the football program, Kenneth Starr being that university's president. I hated them winning this thing just because of that stuff.
I mean, look, the way that the news cycle moves, I'll be honest with you, Bill, up until like 3 days ago, I completely forgot that it ever happened to Baylor because, you get all wrapped up in the tournament. And it is interesting to that point, right? Like, college sports programs have been punished way worse for way less. Like if you use what happened at Southern Methodist University in the early 80s, with just paying players, right? Compared to what Baylor went through, you're absolutely right. Like we shouldn't be talking about Baylor basketball if you want to use those two things side by side at all. However, I mean, I guess you can make the argument that head coach that's there now wasn't there. The kids that are there now are just looking to play. They weren't there. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to punish the 15 guys on the roster and the coaches that had nothing to do with it for sins that were 20 years ago?
No, yeah, 10 actually. I was surprised that it was so recent.
It was 10.
Yeah. I thought about it the same way Duffy does too, but I mean, here we are. What are we? 3 years after the whole Astros scandal, and people still don't let it go. So I mean, I guess it depends on where you come from. I didn't even think about Baylor and their history. I just thought about those kids and the way they played. I don't know if an entire program needs to be marred by one moment and one lapse in judgment, in a moment's history of an organization or a university. So I mean, I'm not tied to holding people forever and condemning them. Sometimes you need to let the program progress and grow.
We are the Rochester Press Box, like it or not, brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law. Unfinished Business, next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Time for Unfinished Business. Pat.
It has to be over soon, right? And when I say over, the Olympics in Beijing, supposed to be in 2020. The announcement a couple months ago that they're going to go forward with the Olympics in Beijing a year later this year in the summertime. And then we find out that you guys know how expensive it is to put on the Olympics. In fact, countries that have had all of the tourists come in and legitimate countries that have money, Greece, for example, ended up in a ton of debt after everything was over because of the finances it takes to put it on. You have rotting structures in some parts of Greece from when they hosted it in 2004. We find out there won't be fans from outside of the country allowed in the Olympics in Beijing in 2020. And then earlier this week, whispers that with all of the stuff going on politically and socially over the last couple of years, that there are those in the United States that are calling for a potential boycott of the Olympics this year for the United States in Beijing. Look, I think the fact of the matter is this. We have to stand back and look at the Olympics and wonder, is it even worth doing anymore? I mean, is it worth only having it in 3 or 4 countries that can legitimately afford it? Is it worth having to deal through all the social and political garbage that we deal through every time this comes up? Because there's always something. And I understand that the idea of the Olympics was for everybody to get along and come together and ignore everything on the outside. But there's 2 things to think about here. 1, I don't know if that's possible. And 2, I don't know if it's healthy to pretend like nothing wrong is happening and bring everyone together to have sports. It might be a socially and politically irresponsible thing to do. Look, unless you're having it in a major European country or the United States, who can afford it? What's the point of doing it? It might be a bad idea and time to hang it up.
Speaking of which, of hanging it up, I want to congratulate Sam Darnold for leaving the New York Jets. This relationship between the Jets and Sam Darnold just didn't work. With Robbie Anderson leaving, one of his weapons now reunited in Carolina, now that he's going there, it was just never meant to be for Sam Darnold. And now that he's got an opportunity to get his NFL career going on the right track in Carolina with a number of different new weapons and players, a running back, a defense, we'll see what Sam Darnold will ultimately be. But the Jets were a dysfunctional organization when he got there. He was touted as the savior of that organization. The AFC matchups between him and Allen would have been epic. But sometimes in a relationship or at a job or in a situation, there are times where it's time to just walk away. It's time where you put everything you could into it. The organization isn't the right fit for you. It just doesn't work out. Sam Darnold gets a second chance at 23 years of age to continue his NFL career. I wish him the best of luck going forward. And the Jets, now I have a direction, starting all over again.
Matt Trabold died a young man last week. I came to know Matt when he was a guest on John DiTullio's radio show. True savant. The subject was basketball. The City of Basketball Love. It was a website he helped operate. Trabold was what we used to call a television cameraman. Sports videographer is a much better term. I've worked with guys like Matt all my life. Eric Johnson at Channel 10, Bob Gosney at YNN. Guys are totally in their element, comfortable with their place in the local sports tapestry. A couple of the best people I know. Trabold was one of them. His mere presence at a game gave the event an element of importance. The athletes all knew him. The cluster of moms who faithfully followed their sons and daughters to fields and courts in Monroe County generally thought of Matt as one of their own. They'd regard him as a friend, even if they didn't know his name. Trabold's expertise, personality, and manner translated well to the other side of the camera as well. He's a frequent contributor to this program and a regular on the high school sports beat. The big man in the shorts and the omnipresent smile. The local sports tapestry won't ever again look quite the same. Rest in peace, my friend. That is our program. Thank you all for joining us. Guys, I enjoyed it. It's good being back.
I'm a little bit worried. Bill, you didn't ask about Pat's jersey.
Oh, yeah. It's a hockey jersey.
But you usually ask. Here's
what we're gonna do. Look. I understand it's his first time back. I'm gonna wear this same one next week, and we can do it all over again. You're welcome. How about that?
You've got so many jerseys, though. That's not fair. Come on, they're gonna get.
Well, we all have something to look forward to for next week. Thank you for joining us. See you again next week with the Rochester Press Box.